Hello and welcome to this episode of Beat Teacher Burnout. Today we're going to be talking about early years, about leadership, the challenges, the responsibilities, and I'm hoping that my amazing guest today, who has oversight of 15 nursery settings, is going to share her many years of expertise, but also challenge leaders about what good leadership looks like. So Tracey, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
So I'm Tracey Hughes. I am a regional manager for Grandia UK. I've been in early years since 1998, so quite a long time. I've only ever done early years. I worked my way up from a nursery nurse, went into management as a manager, and then have been an operations director, and I'm currently a regional manager, and I look after, as you said, 15 nurseries.
Amazing. Okay, so Tracey, we met at a conference and I was really struck by your awareness as a leader of what good leadership looks like for nurseries and early years and the challenges that you know that your teams have, but also that you have. Do you want to talk about where you think we're at currently with in nurseries and the main challenges that exist
Yeah, I
for
think
teams?
to be honest, I think for the teams it is the short staffed. Like it's really hard to recruit at the moment. It's not as easy as it used to be to get level threes. So I do think that impacts on our teams. They're having to do like more work, or they're having to work with agency staff that don't really know the children or don't really have the same impact in the room to support. Like we try and book the same members of staff so the children do build relationships, and we try and keep the same member of staff for like long periods, like 12 weeks. However, it still is not the same as having your own staff. It's not the same as having the strengths that you need within your teams. So it does put an impact on our staff members. I think that also impacts on the managers having to be more in the rooms, having to be able to support and multitask. So they're obviously supporting in rooms, but also having to hold the management tasks that they need to complete, and also being able to juggle like anything that comes from me, anything that comes from higher, to ensure that they are like meeting their goals and making sure they're ready for Ofsted, because they have that, we can have any turn ups at any time. So we need to make sure that the nursery is performing. We need to make sure that the nursery is compliant and that we are doing everything we can to ensure that our children have the best experiences every day in a situation where we can be short staffed. And that impacts
So,
that impacts on people's well-being. It impacts on the staff, it impacts on the team and morale, and we have to work really hard to keep that up.
okay, so I saw that you wrote somewhere that you love your company culture. What is it about your company culture that supports your staff in those stressful, in what is a very challenging role, whatever your role in a early years setting? Let's just agree, shall we? It's challenging.
Yeah, very. The reason I love Grandia's culture is because it is about the people. They really do look after their teams. They're not oblivious that it's tough out there. They're not oblivious that we need to get extra staff or we need extra support. So, we pull together, we look at our other nurseries, we look at if we can, release staff between site and site. We second staff so that they're embedded in our practice and they know our, so there's a wider business that supports. So if I reached out to my boss and said I'm really struggling in this nursery, I need some support, everybody would get on a Teams call, everybody would be able to support. We all run round to ensure that we give whatever nursery needs that support, and that it comes from above, not just from the people on the floor.
So are you saying that, I don't know if I'm hearing this right. So you're saying, obviously, you've got a very big organization, but are you saying that leaders are quite hands-on and part of the day-to-day, should we
Absolutely.
call it mess or
Yeah.
chaos or
Absolutely. If I need to be in numbers, if my boss needed to jump in and be support, that's what we need to do. It's about our children. Like the reason we do this is for our children. We also need to look after our staff and we need to keep our standards. So, like we'd never be non-compliant. We would always ensure that we can support our nurseries. We move staff around if other people have got some spare staff, or we can second staff. We have started our own in-house agency called Grand Flex, so that we can support nurseries with a pool of staff, like bank staff, and they know all of our policies, they know our nursery culture inside out, and they can then speak a seconded to the right nurseries. So we have our own in-house staff rather than having to rely on people that don't know our children or our staff.
Yeah, I know school trusts, multi-academy trusts who do the same, because then you have a more of a consistent staff
Yeah,
offer, if you like.
yeah.
How do you manage when, I've been into a lot of nurseries recently, and a lot of the staff are quite simply worn out. How do you how do you talk to staff about that? How do you talk to yourself? Because do you get worn out as a team manager? How do you work that all out?
I do, and I think it's really important to recognise when you're worn out, or that it's not even about being worn out, is it? I think it's about when you can't give much more. I feel like you give a lot, and then your body's saying, like, I'm actually really tired now. We need to recognise that as leaders. So, like, we do lots of supervisions and just conversations with our staff. If you know your staff well, you'll know when they're flat. I had the same conversation recently. I was on a Teams call. Someone picked up that I just didn't seem to be myself. So they reached out, and that's a higher boss. That wasn't just my boss, that was someone higher. They reached out and said, like, are you okay? They just checked in. And actually, that makes you feel really good that somebody can recognize that you're not yourself. Things do get to you, and it's good to talk it out because, like if I need it, we have wellbeing days. All of our staff get a wellbeing day, so they don't have to book holiday. But if they just need a day to themselves or something's not right, we give them a wellbeing day because it's important to recognise when people just need a break.
Wow. Okay. So there's a little bit I want to dig into there, because you've said that somebody quite high up in your organization recognized that you weren't okay, that you were running on empty, maybe, or that you weren't yourself. So let's put ourselves in the situation of, let's say, a manager in a nursery. What are we saying is the key skill that we're looking for that the staff need?
But I think it's, you know what, if you've got passion and you're really passionate about what you do, you can see when someone, like when they're in the rooms and they're high, they're giving the children absolutely everything that they need. They're bubbly, they're bouncy. And then you'll go in a room another day and somebody's just not, I mean, they're bubbly and they're giving the children what they need, but you can just see it's not their normal energy. Then that's when we need to have them conversations. Like, let's pop outside, let's get a cup of tea. And we do say that. We ask our teams to go outside, spend some time with their manager and have a cup of tea and some biscuits. We have wellbeing trolleys. We have anything to support them because and we have wellness plans because sometimes it is just about a conversation, and then we document how can we support you. So some teams do need to have a wellness plan, and that's what our plans are there for, to support them, to support their well-being, but also to make sure that we don't just do it as a one conversation. We follow up. If somebody's feeling a little bit down, how can we support them and how can we make them back to their normal selves? Sometimes we need to send them to the doctors. Sometimes we need to just do, we also do Medicash ourselves. So we have a company that staff can get counselling or just reach out for conversation. We offer that free to all of our employees.
Okay, so there's quite a lot in there that you're talking about building relationship being key. You're saying that you're valuing your team in a way that the leaders are watching their staff quite
Yeah.
carefully to check that they're okay. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're a good leader and a good coach, that's what you do. You know your team, you're in the rooms, you're understanding how they are and how they're moving. You understand how they deliver every single day. And if you see a difference, then it's really important we recognize that because look, we know managers are busy. We know that teams are busy. We know that everybody runs around like really like to do everything to ensure everything's achieved. However, if we don't have our staff team and we can't recognise when things aren't right, we're going to be even more short-staffed. We're going to have the same, we're going to have staff that leave. Retention's not going to be the same. So it's really important that we do retain our staff, that we do look after our staff, that we put things in place to make sure they feel like they're really important. Because if they're not feeling that, they'll go somewhere else. And that's not what we want. We want our staff to stay. We want our staff to feel like we actually support them, we believe in them, and we'll do anything to help them stay and be their happy selves.
And I love what you're saying, that as a senior leader in a large organization, you can say, well, actually, I have proof that it works because from high
Yeah.
up, someone's checking up on me and I'm checking up on my team. So what would you say to the manager? Someone said to me recently that before she became manager, the manager would be in her office all day. So, managing all the paperwork, which we know the bureaucracy is huge. So she didn't want to be that type of manager. So she is in rooms a lot, building those relationships, checking on her team. But of course, then the bureaucratic side of her job as manager becomes a real stress because she doesn't have time for it. What would you be saying to her?
See, I don't know, because for us, we would also have admins that support them nursery managers, because we want our managers to be in the rooms. We want our managers to be good leaders and coaches. So I understand there's some emails that they need to pick up on. But what we try and say to our managers is that in the morning, the first bit, be the face of the nursery, do your walk around, make sure you're there. But when it's like the lunch times and stuff where the staff are, it's a bit more slower and the day slowed down a bit, then go and catch up on some emails. And then again, like in the end of the evening when it's calmed down a bit, so that we're not expecting our managers to be in the office all day, every day. I do weekly emails. So any information that I want from my team, I send at the end of the week. So I'm not sending like 15 emails throughout a week. I summarize everything that I need at the end of the week. And then I give them dates and realistic dates to come back to me on. So they wouldn't, as a company, we don't send emails like just willy-nilly just to be able to get them to respond. We're quite proactive that if we need something, we give them a time, and then they know they've got a week or two to come back to us on. And then we have other people within our support office that will help with funding, because the managers realistically are there to coach and lead their teams. So they need the time to be able to do that.
Okay, so you've said this a couple of times, which is your managers are leading and coaching. So I've heard everywhere, obviously as a manager, you're a leader. What extra layer are you adding into your leadership structure that your managers are also coaches?
The thing is, you have to be able to coach your senior team to be able to, for them, when you're not in the rooms, that your senior team know how to do that. So when you're in the rooms and you're role modeling and you're mentoring your room leaders, it's about making them. So as a region, we've done quite a lot of work on our room leaders. Like, we're doing some training with them, because it's about upskilling our room leaders to be skilled enough to lead their own teams. But that, when you make a room leader, and I know we're going off subject onto a different topic slightly, but when you make a room leader, the room leader realistically is a nursery practitioner that just gets promoted. So it's really important that they understand when they are promoted that they are a leader and they're a coach. But we have to give them opportunities to learn that. They don't just get that just because they've been given a new job. So it's really important that we spend the time to understand what is a good coach, what is a good leader, because just because you're made a room leader doesn't mean it comes naturally. So we spent a lot of time with our room leaders to really understand, what does a coach look like? How do you? And Ofsted are very impactful on this at the moment. They really want to understand how the room leaders move the room forward, how the staff understand what needs to happen in the rooms, what comes next. But you only get that if somebody can tell you and narrate that. So a manager needs to go in and support to make sure that the room leader is strong enough to be able to lead their teams.
Yeah, I don't think that's off piste at all. I think this is absolutely critical, because actually, if we're only going to, you started off by saying one of your biggest challenges is staff retention and
Yeah.
recruitment, and it's the same pretty much everywhere. Well, certainly the nurseries that I'm supporting, and research is saying it.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's lots of other challenges and stresses. But what would you say is, for the leaders, what are the skills that you think make an outstanding leader?
I think you have to have people skills. You need to understand people, but in different ways, because the thing is, not everybody responds in the same way. Not everybody takes criticism in the same way. So it is about being able to be adaptive. It's about being able to change the way that you talk to your staff. It's about the way that you come across to be the most impactful to individuals. And I think, me as a leader, when I go in and do coaching or teaching with my managers, and I do it with my deputies as well, I think it's really important to recognise how people take criticism and how people learn, because they're individuals, and if we not one fits all. So when we go in and we are doing our peer on peers and we're giving feedback, or when we go in and we're doing some observations on meal times or sleep times or anything like that, it's about how they're going to get the most impact from the feedback you're giving. Because if you're giving feedback and they take it in a wrong way, you can cause a big situation that doesn't need to happen. So it's really important that you understand that staff member that you understand the best way to get them to work and really drill down on that as individuals. I don't think, as a good leader for me, I think it's really important that you don't treat everybody the same.
Wow. Okay. I think that's an outstanding quote from this podcast so far. And I absolutely agree with you. I guess I'm just interested. You obviously go and invest a lot in your leaders to give them the skills they need. Because one of the things that I remember being in education for so many years is that if someone came and saw what I was doing, whether it was formal or informal observation, they would always give, one or two positives and then one or two negatives. And I actually, the positives were meaningless because all I would remember was the stuff I had to work on or the negative or whatever. So, how do you manage that?
But I don't think the sandwich is always good for everybody, and that's the truth. Like, even with parents, we say the same, like, oh, given the positives and given the negatives. However, you always are going to listen to the negative. So I think it's about how you deliver the message. It's not about it being a negative. It's like, what can we do to make this better? It's not all like, there is nothing, unless it's like critical to a child. It wouldn't be a negative. It's about how we can make the situation easier for staff and children. So it's about reflection, and I think that's the difference, that the wording you're using. On reflection, could we do this? On reflection, can we do this next time and trial it? Because we're never going to sit there and say that didn't work or that's rubbish or blah blah blah, because you're just going to demote your staff, and that's not what we want. It's about reflecting on the practice that we're delivering and how can we make that practice better.
Okay, so you're basically training up reflective practitioners, aren't you?
Yeah, and we use a lot of reflective practice books. So there's great stuff out there that, that the staff use and they can reflect. We ask them the situation arises and they don't think that it's handled right. How do we reflect on it? So we're very good at reflecting on situations. Even as leaders, we bring it to our regional meeting every month. We reflect on situations that have happened in each of our nurseries and how could we have dealt with it differently and what have we learned? So the other managers are learning from that too.
Okay, that gets me really excited because I know that if we stop growing, then we're stuffed. But also, if we can't admit that we've made a mistake and learn from it, we are not going to be safe in our setting. So
No.
you are basically setting up a workplace where it's okay to mess up, to make a mistake, because then your attitude is, right, how can we learn from this? Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes and tell my manager that I've made a mistake. It's about ownership, isn't it? It's about accountability. And if we're accountable, and it's not about like getting in trouble, that's not our culture. That's not what we do in our business. It's about ensuring that our children are safe, that our staff are safe, and that we're creating a safe environment for everybody. And if we've made a mistake and we need to fix it, then we reflect on it and how can we make sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, I love that. I love that, Tracey. And I think so all the work that I do is based around the fact that we all need to understand our own value to be able to then value those around us.
Yeah.
But it strikes me that in your setting, you're really valuing your team and enabling them to be fully themselves and to grow themselves into the best version of them. And I wonder, what else do you do to help your staff to be themselves, to have the autonomy to become their best version?
I think what's really important is, not even just for me, but as a company, that we do like leadership training too. So we have like Leap and we have Ignite, which are like to people that are inspiring to be deputies or inspiring to be good room leaders. Then we take them away every month for a whole day and do specific training with them. So because we want them to be the best of themselves, we want to teach people how to be a good leader, and it doesn't come naturally to all. So but doesn't mean you can't be given that experience. It just means sometimes that you need a little bit of support or you need some training. So we do offer that, but we also recognize that people want to achieve things like so we do like staff meetings. We ask staff to reflect on things that have happened in their room, and then we ask them to talk to other members of staff within the nurseries. We do podcasts, or we do buddy trainings like Senko, for instance. We've got some champions that other nurseries do really good bucket time, or other nurseries do really good like inclusion with parents and stuff. So we've asked them to record them to share them as champions across our region, so that we are using skills from other people to be able to develop all of our teams.
Brilliant. CPD is obviously so important. I'm going to ask you a question because someone asked it to me last week, and I was thinking, how am I going to answer this? A room leader said to me that in her group of five or six adults in her room, she said some pull their weight and some don't, and she's really struggling to get more engagement, more responsibility from the ones who don't. And what would you be saying or doing in that situation?
See, I think that room leader just needs some more teaching and coaching, because it has to come from the room leader. Because I think if the manager starts getting involved from that situation, so it's about coaching the room leader to be able to go in, use the job description. So actually, like, we use them with two colour pens. What do you think you are doing right now? What do you think you need support in? So you use two colour pens on your job description. What are you securing? And what are you not there in? So then we can build you a CPD on that job description to support you, because it could be that they're just, again, it might not be the right age group. It could be that they just need some support in other training. It could be that there's something going on with other staff members in the room and they feel a little bit intimidated. So it's about getting to the root cause of why that staff member's feeling like that. But using the job description and building that relationship with that team member, it will open up a conversation and discussion.
Yeah. So again, you're talking all about bringing back the reflective thinking and the conversations and things, aren't you? Okay, I'm going to pivot again.
Okay.
This is like an interrogation, isn't it, Tracey? You have such knowledge and experience. It's wonderful. And I love the ethos that you're coming with. So I working with a group from lots of different local nurseries, lots of managers, and they were all pretty overwhelmed, frankly. And I mean, they were doing amazing things. Every single one had fantastic nurseries, doing amazing things, but they themselves were very overwhelmed and actually running on empty. What would you be saying to them today?
So I think that's when a good leader or a good manager comes in, because I check in with my managers. So we have a weekly daily call with all my managers, but during the day they know if they need me. They ring me twice if it's an emergency, once if they don't need to call me back. But just to be able to reflect and say, like I'm going to use a story from this week. We had an Ofsted inspection. One of my members of management she gave everything. It was an amazing day, but it took a lot out of her. Like, she was just really worn out by the end of the day. So I said, so she called me and said, I'm just really tired. I said, don't come in the next day, stay at home, because the nursery will still carry on. We've got good leaders. We don't always need our managers to be there. And to get the best out of our managers, they also need to stop and rest. Like, I need to stop and rest. So it's about recognizing, to say, you've got your wellbeing day. You can just have that day on us. Go and have a day to yourself. Go and relax and come back tomorrow. It's fine.
Okay. Wow, that's lovely. As nursery leaders, do you think, because my background is mainly schools, and so I know that right now, if there's a 6 week holiday, I've got to work through quite a lot of the holiday, but I do know that I'm not in school every day, and I have that sort of that release to enable myself to rest. And I know that school leaders really struggle to switch off and rest. But as nursery leaders, do you think, how is it to rest and switch off when you have a holiday?
I think it's really important that you do. I'm really honest. I do think if you have a good supportive deputy, we always say to our deputies not to contact the managers when they're on annual leave. That's the reason I'm there. They can contact me or one of my support managers. I think it's really important they know who to contact and not to go to the manager, because I do think it's really important when you're not at work that you actually do have time to switch off and be with your family. I think family time is just as important to refill your cup, to make sure that you get that time away and then make sure that it's not about work. And I think like a good handover before the holiday to really understand what's going on in the nursery, to make sure that I can pick up any points that the manager doesn't have to worry about. And then, delegating them to the deputies or if I need to pick it up, then I will pick it up. But it's about the manager actually having some time away from the setting, that they can just not be contacted at all. And we really work hard on our deputies that they don't contact their managers while they're away.
Okay, so you really are talking about a line. So when you have holiday, you stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to, because we don't get we get 5 weeks a year. So it's about how important, and we're very good at making sure every quarter that they take a week or two off, so that it's balanced out within the months, because if you save all your holiday to the end of the year, you've got nothing left by that time. So it's really important that the first quarter you have a week, the second quarter that you can have a 2-week holiday or 1-week holiday, but we just need to split it up so that we're not running on them to empty.
Yeah. Okay, so as we draw to the end, Tracey, what is one thing that you would say to leaders who are listening to this who are just exhausted? What would you be saying to them?
I think it's about being honest to your manager. I think you need to have that honest conversation to say, like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I'm really overwhelmed. It doesn't make you a bad leader. It makes you a stronger leader, because even the best of us ask for help. I ask for help because sometimes everything gets enough for everybody, and there's solutions out there, but you just need to ask for them solutions to come, because there are everybody. To make you a stronger leader, sometimes you need to find another way to do stuff, and by putting your heads together, it's easier to find them.
Wow, what a great way to stop. Tracey, if people want to just find out more about you, where would they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Tracey Hughes on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm happy for anyone to make contact with me. No problems at all.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time and sharing all your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.